Assalamalaikum and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Perceptive Learning Zone. And today we are going to talk about report writing. So, in the previous session, we talked about the fact that a report is basically task one of IELTS academic writing. And it ideally should be completed in a time frame of 20 minutes because you got to save at least 40 for the essay. And you need to write a minimum of 150 word. Ideally, I recommend students to write down between 150 and 200 words. The band descriptors are the same, just like they are for the essay, just like they are for the letter for general students, right? Your band descriptors are task response, addressing all parts of the question, cohesion and coherence, making sure your arguments are in a certain rhythmic sequence, they don't contradict each other, there's proper use of vocabulary, that is lexical resource, and then fourthly, that you've made proper compound sentences that comes based under the heading of a GRA, that is grammatical range and accuracy. So without further ado, today we will basically be talking about a certain type of report that is called a line graph report. So if we talk about the syllabus for IELTS report writing, you could get a line graph report, you could get a column graph report, there could be a table report, a map report, diagram report, pie chart, as well as bar chart report. So now these are the different variations, okay? Understand that the structure, the means of answering these questions, right, is the same, okay, that I talked about in the last clause. And in the first paragraph, you talk about the introduction, which is quintessentially speaking, you paraphrasing the background question statement. And after that, you talk about your overview, that is, what are the key features, what's the main picture that you're getting out of it. You summarize that in your overview. And that ideally comes in the first paragraph, introduction and overview. And the second paragraph is a body paragraph where you go in details. You could describe the relationship between different things, the factors, the quantities, and all that stuff. So today, through a solved question, let's try to understand how to go about a line graph report, okay? So the very first thing is, ladies and gentlemen, you do understand what a line graph report looks like. And as you can see in front of you on the screen, this is what it looks like, okay? Obviously, there's a graph. There's an x-axis. In this case, the x-axis represents the times. You got different years, 2005, 2007, 9, 11, 13, 15. And on the y-axis, you have percentages that correspond basically to the regional household recycling rates. Now, the three different profiles, as you can see on the schematic, right? And each profile, each graphical profile, rather each line, right? Because it's like in the form of a line. So each line graph corresponds to one particular country. So we got red being denoted by France. UK is representing blue, whereas Germany is being represented by green. Okay, so that is the basic understanding that we get out of looking at this graph. So before you do the question, obviously the graph, and first ask yourself, okay, what's on the x-axis? In other words, what's an independent variable? What is a dependent variable that is on the y-axis? And what is this basically telling me? Okay. After that, right? After that, you read the question. So I hope you all can see the screen. So let me zoom it in a little bit more. Okay. So let's try to read this question, fellas. Okay. Question. The line graph above shows the household recycling rates in 3 different countries between 2005 and 2015. And here's what they're asking you to do. Okay. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Some people say, why is overview so important? Because an overview is sort of a summary of the main picture, right? So they're asking you clearly in the question, summarize. So if you haven't given the overview, you haven't answered the question fully. You haven't justified the task response bound descriptor, right? So if you haven't justified the task response bound descriptor, that means, fellas, that you're not going to get a bound score of like 5.5 tops. Okay, so just be very particular about that. So like I said before, in order to attain the maximum bound score mentioned for one, it is recommended from my side to follow the below mentioned structure. Okay, first paragraph introduction, first paragraph overview, second paragraph is the detailed information for the body paragraph. I'm aware I'm repeating this over and over again, but that's because it is super important. I haven't given this exam myself. I can tell you from experience. So tips for introduction, right? So first of all, written in the first paragraph, the introduction basically involves paraphrasing the background question statement or the question statement and writing it in your own words without altering its meaning in order to showcase or exhibit or demonstrate flexible use of English language. And ideally speaking, the introduction should comprise of 2 or 3 sentences, okay? So let's see. This was our background question statement. The line graph above shows the household recycling rates in 3 different countries between 2005 and 2015. First of all, let's try to rewrite the statement in our own words. That is my introduction. Okay, so that's what I've done. Instead of saying the line graph above, I've said the given line graph, right? Instead of shows, I've used a synonym, depicts, right? Household recycling rates in 3 different countries between 2005 and 2015. What have I written? The regional household recycling rates exclusive to 3 distinct nations. Instead of countries, are of nations: UK, France, and Germany. You can take 1 or 2 or 3 words from the statement as it is, but please do not copy paste the entire statement. Okay? You need to showcase your vocabulary. Okay, then I can talk further. Now, guys, I'm going to give you 2 types of introductions. Okay, both are fine. It's up to you which one you want to go for. Okay, so as you can see, between 2005 and 2015, that follows is basically 10 years, right? So what am I saying? That the collected results span a decade, as in these results cover a time period of 10 years. Okay, between 2005 and 2015, in other words, whatever written starting in 2005 and ending in 2015. As you can see on this graph, you're starting from 2005 and you're ending in 2015. So there we go. So that's pretty much our one type of introduction. Okay. Yeah, you can go on to say, now remember basic mathematics 101, right? That the independent variable always comes on the x-axis, which in this case is like the time factor. So you can also go ahead and say the time period being the independent variable is computed on the x-axis, whereas the regional household recycling rates being the dependent variable is computed on the y-axis. And where does it start from? From 0% and goes all the way to what? 70%. So you can talk about that as well, right? Whereas a regional household recycling rates being the dependent variable is computed on the y-axis, occupying a range from 0% to 70%. So that, fellows, is one type of introduction. Just let me read it again. The given line graph depicts the regional household recycling rates exclusive to 3 distinct nations: UK, France, and Germany. The collected results span a decade, starting in 2005 and ending in 2015. The time period being the independent variable is computed on the x-axis, whereas the regional household recycling rates being the dependent variable is computed on the y-axis, occupying a range from 0 to 70%. Now, for those of you who feel like maybe this is a bit of a drag, like, I don't know, like maybe it's a tad bit too complex, you got an alternative way of drafting a compelling introduction as well. That is also, that also happens to be super brief. And that is, I mean, you got, you know, आप देख रहे हैं, right? ये आप देख रहे हैं, the line graph above shows the household recycling rates in 3 different countries between 2005 to 2015. इसको simply बस आप paraphrase भी कर सकते हैं. The line graph illustrates the regional household recycling rates in UK, France, and Germany from 2000, between 2005 and 2015. से निकाला गया from 2005 to 2015. Next up, overview की बात करें, right? When giving an overview, you shouldn't go into any specific details. Simply give your overall opinion or the main interpretation that you draw from the question, the main feature, and wrap it up on a superficial level. Don't go in detail. It's a good technique to start with the word overall, as it gives a clear-cut signal to the examiner that you've started addressing the overview section of the report. Okay, so overall, what are you getting from this graph? Okay, all right, let's talk about the red one first, guys. Okay, in 2005, the percentage was 50%, and then it's going down, 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 2007, 9, 11, decreasing, decreasing till 2013, from where it is at its lowest, that is 30%. And after that, it increases slightly all the way to 2015. It's stopping in 2015 at 40%. So even though it slightly increased from 2013 to 2015, went up to 40%, look at the initial destination. I mean, just look at the initial point and just look at the final destination. For France, which is represented in red, what was the initial point in 2005? 50%? Okay. What is the final point? 2015, 40%. So overall, the initial point was 50%. The final destination is 40%. So overall, I mean, there have been some fluctuations, but overall, for France, the value has gone down from 50 to 40% if you talk about initial and final points. Let's talk about UK. 2005, round about 35%, goes up in 2007, stays constant from 2007 to 2009, then it goes up again till 2011, then increases at a bit slower rate from 2011 to 2015, but keeps on increasing. So UK more or less has kept increasing, right? And if you talk about Germany, their regional household recycling rates We see the same thing from 2005 to 2015. There's a continuous increase. So what we see overall, I mean, this is how you structure, ladies and gentlemen, that overall for UK and Germany, there has been an increase in the regional household recycling rates. And as for France, there's been an overall decrease. Once again, why? Because France has shown some fluctuations, right? But the initial percentage in 2005, that was 50%, is more than the final percentage in 2015, that is 40%. So overall, there has been a decline. So that is how you talk about the overall picture, okay? So the overview will be that overall, the recycling rates of the United Kingdom and Germany showed a steady but significant rise over the period. They increased constantly, but they kept on increasing, whereas the percentage of recycled waste in France experienced a downward trend. And then you something to basically note about, which is quite important, right? Note, basically, you're saying that UK and Germany's rates increased, whereas France's rate decreased. So it's very important to give an overview. Otherwise, your academic report will score much lower without it. Next up, you talk about tips for body paragraph. So after you have given the overview, right? Okay, I think it's a prayer time. So we're just going to take a quick, maybe a minute break, and then we'll be right back. All right, so we're back and let's just carry on with our discussion. So, yeah, next time we're talking about tips for body paragraph. After you're given the overview, you should group the data by some feature and give specific details. In this line graph, you can group data in two ways. One could be by country. You could first talk about, because now you're given the details. So you can first talk about UK, goes this from this, and stayed constant, then it increased at a slow rate. Same for France, same for Germany. You could talk about the countries one by one, or you could include what is the second approach, guys? You could write the body paragraph on the basis of common trends. Like, for example, from 2005 to 2007, you have both UK and Germany showing an upward increase. So you can merge the information, make your answer more professional, more effective, as well as save time for yourself, right? So by similar trend, as you can see, UK and Germany follow a similar trend, constant rates, increasing pattern, decreasing pattern, okay? So just talk about that. I would recommend the second approach. The first one is fine as well, but that is up to you, okay? That being said and done, also make sure, guys, that you use, um, synonyms in terms of the approach. Like, for example, if you just say the value increases from 2005 to 2007, the value increases from this to this. Don't say increase, over and over again. Just say the value enhances, the value increases a number. There's an upward trend observed. The value goes up, right? So that is one thing, right? Just make sure you use synonyms. And on top of that, guys, just remember, this is not a proper graph paper, okay? So these are approximate values. So for example, in 2005, UK starting values, let's say you say that is, for example, 35%. Don't say it is 35%. I mean, how do you know, right? I mean, it could be 34.8, it could be 35.3, it could be 36, because you can't really tell with 101% certainty, right? So you can say it is estimated to be, it is roughly, or it is approximately 35%. That is like very important, I would say. So just make sure that you basically, mention these things, okay? Because that is pretty much important. Okay, so that being said and done, okay, let's carry on and let's try to read this body paragraph and see what we get out of it. In 2005, the recycling rates of UK and Germany were nearly 35% and 20% respectively. Germany's rate increased sharply throughout the period, exceeding France's rate in 2009 and reaching almost 60% at the end of the period. If you're having difficulties in visualizing, you can always stop, go back, just take the picture and keep that in front of you and see how my explanation makes sense to you. Germany's rate increased sharply throughout the period, exceeding France's rate in 2009 and reaching almost 60% at the end of the period. In the meantime, the percentage of recycled waste in the UK grew to almost 40% in 2007 and then remained steady or constant until 2009. During 2009-2011, it experienced a rapid surge to more than 50%, continued with a gradual increase to around about 60% in 2015. In early 2005, the recycling rate of France, approximately 50%, was the highest among these three countries. However, it suddenly or dramatically or quickly went down or declined to approximately 30% in 2013. Then there was a growth of about 10% in 2015, but France's recycling rate was the lowest towards the end of the period. So that's how you can go about your body paragraph. So let's revise this quickly. Okay, so this was your diagram. Okay, your x-axis is the time period, y-axis is your regional household recycling rates for three countries, UK, France, and Germany. The question says the line graph above shows the household recycling rates in three different countries between 2005 and 2015. Summarize information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So let's read it at a stretch now. The line graph illustrates the regional household recycling rates in the UK, France, and Germany from 2005 to 2015. Overall, the recycling rates of the United Kingdom and Germany showed a steady but significant rise over the period, whereas the percentage of recycled waste in France experienced a downward trend. In 2005, the recycling rates of the UK and Germany were nearly 35% and 20% respectively. Germany's rate increased sharply throughout the period, exceeding France's rate in 2009 and reaching almost 60% at the end of the period. In the meantime, the percentage of recycled waste in the UK grew to about 40% in 2007 and then remained steady until 2009. So during 2009 to 2011, it experienced a rapid surge to more than 50% and continued with a gradual increase to approximately 60% in 2015. In early 2005, the recycling rate of France, almost 50%, was the highest among these three countries. However, it dramatically declined to about 30% in 2013. Then there was a growth of approximately 10% in 2015, but France's recycling rate was the lowest towards the end of the period. As you can see, towards the end of the final year, that is 2015, France is at the bottommost position. And similarly, in 2005, it was at the topmost position. So maybe you could include that in your overview as well. That overall, France had the highest position at the start and the lowest position at the end. So it's all about visualization, guys. Okay, you got to work on your analytical abilities. That's what I'm going to say. Increase your capabilities, right? The word limit of this is like approximately 177 words, which is fine. It should be about 150. Not too much, because then time management becomes an issue. And like I said before, there's no need to write a conclusion when it comes to report writing, because our conclusion is like a summary and the overview itself is a summary. So you don't want repetitions, as they're going to drag your bounce score down. And finally, guys, just remember, complex sentences are the need of the hour as far as IELTS and other English proficiency tests are concerned. So that being said, now just remember the different ways you can go about it. Okay. There's more than one way to bake a cake. So to satisfy the grammatical range and accuracy bar descriptor, how are the different ways in which you can write complex sentences? I'm just going to give you some examples, and then you can just do some more practice yourself. Okay. The first example, the number of people becoming vegetarian increased steadily from about 75 to 200 between 2004 and 2007. Second example, between 2004 and 2007, the number of people becoming vegetarian increased steadily from about 75 to 200. Third way you could write about it is there was a steady increase. In the same sentence, I'm just writing in different ways, okay, without changing the meaning of it, obviously. There was a steady increase in the number of people becoming vegetarian from about 75 to 200 between 2004 and 2007. And last but not least, the number of people becoming vegetarian experienced a steady increase from about 75 to 200 between 2004 and 2007. So this pretty much sums up the line graph report, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys found this session productive. And obviously, if you have any reservations or any query and you don't understand, you're most welcome to reach out to me in the comment section. We'll be back with the discussion of other types of reports in the coming period, God willing. That'll be all for today. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening. Stay blessed. Assalamualaikum.